Okay. Now my audience, they're gonna destroy me if I don't ask this question, but they're gonna want to know like this Turo thing, like how much money do you tend to make on a monthly basis, like with Turo?
So I'll give you the number and then I'll give you the big disclaimer. So I did a video where I talked about revenue versus profit. I went into detail about everything, but I really like honed in on like the important part, which is like what makes each of these things up. Because me giving you a number means nothing, right? Because it is totally dependent on so many different variables. So in my case, when I did this video, I think I had numbers through August, I think, and I basically took my revenue from from Turo. I threw in my expenses, and then I figured out what I had netted. So through August, I was at about like 15,000 in revenue just from that one car for this year, and I was netting about, and this doesn't take into account depreciation because that's like a whole nother.
Right.
But just to give you an idea, this is netting, obviously before taxes and depreciation. I was netting about $800 a month for the one car, and that's considering that. So it was like 780 or something, but that's considering that I also have been paying for some of the management of the car. So like I have my brother or my cousin help me. So sometimes I think I only did like a few, maybe like 4 trips that I actually went and picked up the car myself and either washed it or got it washed. But for the most part, they did most of the other trips, and so I was paying them, and I was paying them a pretty nice amount, hourly rate, and so that's considering those expenses. And so that's why I say like it really, really, really varies on, it varies on your market. It varies on, your revenue first is going to vary like what market you're in, what car you have, what did you set your prices at? Are you competitive? So are you getting a lot of, rentals? It's seasonal as well. So some markets are seasonal. So your revenue is going to depend on all of that. Then your profit is going to depend on a whole another set of even different variables, like what's your car payment? Did you get a crazy, did you get a 3 year, and so your car payment's ridiculous, or did you pay for it cash? Are you able to drop off the car and pick it up on your own? Like, do you have a spouse that's going to drive with you and then come back, or are you paying for Ubers each time? Which, in the
Hmm.
case of Ubers, I mean, just as a side note, like you are charging delivery, so you have your rates, and then you charge, like for example, $115 for delivery to airports. So that covers, should cover the Uber charges. But again, that's why it's hard to say like what would somebody else be able to make, because it depends. Are you managing the cars yourself, or are you paying somebody to go help you pick them up and wash them? And are you maintaining them yourself, or do you know about mechanics, or do you have to take it to so that's why it is such like when somebody says, oh, you're going to make this, it's like it's impossible to say that. But on average, you hear where people typically kind of make like when you always hear somebody say, for example, I have 20 cars, they're typically making like 20,000 a month. So it's, on average, like 1,000 per car. But again, that's very like, it depends on the car, on the everything I just mentioned. So, but you can make somewhere in that. And like I said, in my case, I believe with all of the expenses that I, calculated, it was about like 700-800 net,
Okay. You
which is
know,
not bad.
hearing you
That's pretty
say that,
nice.
it sounds very similar to conducting a short-term rental business to some degree, in terms of the variable costs. Like someone who has, but the sweet spot for a studio apartment is for it to be able to cash flow at least $600 to $1,000 net. And if you drop below 600, something's not right. You need to go redesign the place, or maybe your rates are too low. Some needs to be taken into consideration. If you make more, who's going to complain about making more? But different people have different costs. Like if you're hiring a housekeeping, like your housekeepers charge flat fees, high flat fees usually. So it might be closer to that $600 a month if you're doing that. You could hire your own housekeepers, train them up, pay them per hour, 12, 13, $14 an hour, and maybe you'd be making around $800 per month. Or if you go in there and do the housekeeping yourself, well, you don't have any fees, but you're still charging the cleaning fee. Well, you have the cleaning supplies, but supplies are pretty cheap, so it's like you be getting closer to the $1,000. That's three different scenarios, but it's because of that one variable cost. Hearing you explain how money works, it seems like it's pretty similar in terms of the variable cost.
Yeah, exactly. Like some people may have, a job and they are doing this sort of as a side thing and they don't mind giving up a little bit of, of revenue to not have to handle it yourself because to be able to still focus on your job. And so like you don't mind giving up a little bit of revenue. Some others may not have a job. Maybe they're retired. Maybe or maybe they decided to go, all in on this and that's all they want to do. And so yeah, that's why it really, really varies, like you just said, on each person's situation. And then again, of course, you want to just make sure every car is going to be different. And we can, if you want, we can kind of get into like how to, because there's places and tools like that you can go look at that'll give you a really good idea, in terms of like what car to buy, how much revenue you can make with each car.
Okay, well, I mean, you kind of teased the audience, so we might as well go into it.
Yeah, no, I just didn't want to interrupt your flow. But yeah, so one thing is like Turo has their own calculator, which now they actually put out like a more advanced one. And we can drop that link in the description as well. Where you basically go in, you can pick like they have like they can either do like a national average or they have like actual specific areas if they're like the pretty, bigger markets. And you basically just go in and put in, you can see all types of cars. You can change the variables if you wanted to customize it a little bit more towards your specific needs. But it gives you a really good ideas like what the ROIs are for specific cars. And then there's also this app that just came out recently. It's not an app per se. It's like a plugin, like a Chrome plugin, where basically it like scrubs the Turo data. So you go on it and you click into your area and you start navigating around. And I'll probably be doing a video explaining on how to use that. But basically you just kind of start shifting around on the Turo app and it just starts pulling in all this information. And then it fills in all this extra information for you of like how much the car was rented, how long it's been. So at the end, you could end up with this huge spreadsheet of like all the cars in your market and how much they've been rented, how long they've been on the platform, what their daily rates are. And of course, it's not an exact because, for example, it could consider that it's rented and actually it's in the shop, so it's unavailable. So, there's because obviously they don't have access to private data, to the actual, hosts and guests booking data. But it gives you a pretty good, pretty decent idea if you're going to start really seriously thinking about getting. So like right now, that's what I've been doing a lot of, and like, for example, one really high ROI car is Fiat. Surprisingly, it's a cheap car, which is why but it really has for some reason it has a very high ROI.
Hey.
But yeah, those are tools that you could, if you really are interested and you really want to, because you definitely don't want to get into this and just say, I'm just going to pick a car that I like and go out there and just buy it. Like you really want to like do as much research and really like, study the numbers and yes, of course, at the end, anything could happen, but at least you went into it with as much, research done and as much, projections as possible.
Right. Good tip. I am curious about like you mentioned that you do need to drop the car off sometimes. When I went to Houston with one of my friends for a festival, he rented a car in Turo, and he picked me up in my place. Then we stayed there for a few days in Houston at an Airbnb. And then when we came back, he dropped me back off in my place, but he said he needed to go drop the car back off to the owner. So I was always under the impression that the guest goes to pick the car up. But what you're telling me is, I guess it can go either way. Can you give like the guest an option to go pick the car up, or and it's free, or you can deliver it to them for that fee? So it's basically an option for them.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously the host sets, whatever they want, but you can give them the option of just picking it up at a certain location. So if that's the case, like for example, I never put the house location. I always have like a
Right.
nearby like a
Like a
retail
park or
store
something.
parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just put that address, and they'll go pick it up there. Or you can say, I deliver to this airport, certain airports, or even certain like the train station, or basically just say I'll deliver for $120 to anywhere in the 20-mile radius, so they can actually have it even delivered to their house if they just want to get up and have the cart parked in front and not have to go anywhere. So you do have that ability to decide however you want, and you can charge for delivery.
I was just
And the
thinking.
other
Well, when you said that, I was just thinking, what if you actually live by a train station, like literally it's in walking distance, like 2-3 minutes, and you charge like a delivery fee to deliver the car to the train station, and then obviously you deliver it, they drive off, then you just walk home, and it takes 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much like what we have at our home location. Yeah, definitely. If you live close to an airport, that's like a big benefit.
Hmm.
Um, in my case, I think I've only had like 2 or 3 trips where they've booked like to pick up. The rest have been airport deliveries because it's just so
Okay.
convenient.
Right, right.
They come out of their plane and they go right into the car. And then just one other thing about that is that now, a few years back, this wasn't as big, but now, with the whole COVID and like I don't see any guests at all. Like I drop off the car at the airport, and the keys are in a Faraday bag, so in a bag that blocks out the signal, and you leave the key inside the glove box, and it's called Turo Go. And as long as like your card's like a connected car, like so like how Chevy has like their Chevy OnStar or whatever, and then like BMW have like their my BMW whatever connected car thing,
Hmm.
where you're able to like access the car remotely. So you link it to Turo, and so the guest basically just comes out of their flight, walks up to the car, they start their check-in on the app, take the pictures, and then they can unlock the car right from there, and then they just grab the key and go. So you really don't even have to like see anybody. You don't have to which makes it really, really, really convenient because you're not limited to a specific time. So like if let's say you have a job to get to, you can drop off the car at 9 in the morning as opposed to at 12 to be able to get to work. Of course you're going to be paying parking because you do have to, pay the parking at the airport. But it's just convenience. Now you can have a full-time job and still do this if you wanted to, because you can drop off the car the night before. If you're going on a trip or something, you can have the car that just dropped off the night before. You can pick it up at you're not limited to like 5-minute window to meet the guest and like, do the handoff.
I didn't know it was. I guess the technical term would be contactless. I didn't know that that was
Mm-hmm.
a thing. But now that I think about it, Suro would be affected by the pandemic like everything else. So that brings another component to it. Oh wow. I think she's trying to turn
Yeah,
me
that's
into a
very
Turo host.
convenient.
Yeah,
I should be getting some Turo commission.
yeah. I don't know if they have an affiliate program, but if they do, you got
No,
me.
I think they used to.
It is what it is. Sup everyone, y'all just watched a clip from one of the episodes of the Side Hustler Society podcast. If you want to check out the full episode, you can click on the link in the description right now, or click on the video that's showing in the end screen. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new and hit that bell notification if you want to be notified when another episode drops, and a thumbs up on this video is very much appreciated. I'll catch you in the next one.